Welcome back to The Final Takeaway. We're glad you could join us. The family of 11-year-old Adrianna Younge, who died under what appears to be suspicious circumstances, has called on the Guyanese government to facilitate the involvement of foreign agencies to investigate whether the death was a result of a homicide. They name-dropped agencies like the Federal Bureau of Investigation, the FBI, Scotland Yard, and the Royal Canadian Mounted Police. The family's request came after the Guyana police dropped the ball on this case from the get-go and are now trying to do damage control. Lately, the family is more focused on getting the FBI to intervene after rejecting a retired investigator from the Royal Canadian Mounted Police. In today's video, we will go over the protocols governing how and when the FBI gets involved in an investigation in a foreign country or jurisdiction. Before we jump into that, what's the Guyanese government's position on involving the FBI? The government holds the key to allowing the FBI to help uncover whether this case is a crime. But of late, President Irfan Ali is signaling a lack of interest in involving other external investigators on this case. That's besides the retired homicide investigator from Canada who we learned arrived in Guyana last evening. Adrianna's family outrightly rejected this government-selected official on the grounds of independence and transparency. President Ali appears at a point of resignation in terms of involving other external investigators. He is quoted as saying, "I've done what I said I would have done. I've already done what I had to do." The head of state stopped short of detailing what it is he's done. President Ali's current position is a stark contrast from his earlier promise to leave no stone unturned to determine everything we need to know about how the girl met her demise. So the big question is, what's stopping the government from involving the FBI? In fact, can the FBI even investigate Adrianna Younge's death? United States Ambassador to Guyana, Nicole Theriot, said the FBI may be able to help, but the Guyana government has to take the first step. However, the process can be a bit complex, which is why I'm inviting you to watch this video all the way to the end if you have a vested interest in the Adrianna Younge case or you'd like to learn more about how the FBI gets involved in a case in a foreign country. That will help you get a full understanding of when and how the FBI may take on an extraterritorial case, such as the one involving the death of someone in another nation, including when that person is a non-US citizen, as would be the case if the agency were to take on or get involved in the Adrianna Younge incident. As you may know, the FBI is an American crime investigation agency. It cannot insert itself into the affairs of a sovereign country like Guyana, but it can intervene so long as it follows preset protocols or steps to lawfully get involved. Let's take a look, and remember to jump into the comment section and let us know your take on this. One of the first things we wish to square away is this: the FBI operates under US federal law and cannot act freely abroad. However, there's a system that allows it to investigate international crimes, including suspicious deaths, and this is typically when there is a valid jurisdictional connection. We'll explain what that means in a moment. A general approach involves the following steps. The first one is a request by the host country. Guyana would be the host country in this case. The Guyana government or the police force can invite or permit the FBI's involvement, but that is if there is some kind of bilateral arrangement or bilateral agreement between Guyana and the US for this to happen. Number 2, the FBI has to decide if the case has a link or nexus to the US jurisdiction. For example, the FBI may investigate if the death involves a US citizen, whether as a victim or a perpetrator. The second way the FBI could determine if it has a link to the foreign country in order to get involved in the case is if there is a suspected terrorism, kidnapping, or transnational crime, for example, trafficking or organized crime or connection that affects the United States. Note, there have been cases when the FBI intervened in cases where the person or persons were non-US citizens. For example, in 2016, the FBI investigated a case where multiple Mexican nationals were taken out in connection with the Sinaloa cartel. While the FBI can assist, they're generally restricted to intelligence sharing, evidence requests, and investigative support, but cannot take on direct law enforcement actions like interviewing witnesses, etc. In high-profile cases, the U.S. ambassador may also play a role in facilitating the FBI's involvement. Only this week, the U.S. ambassador to Guyana, Nicole Theriot, informed the Guyana government that all it needs to do is to issue a formal request or invitation to the FBI. If nothing else, remember this is one of the most important takeaways from this whole video. The host country's invitation or cooperation is key in getting the FBI involved. In this case, the host country would be Guyana. Again, the FBI can only operate in a foreign country, for example, collect evidence or conduct interviews with the consent of the host nation. This can be done, for example, through a legal attaché who is stationed at the local U.S. embassy. That would be the embassy in Georgetown. Now, Adrianna's family and attorney have called for an independent investigation by the FBI. Based on our findings, the FBI has no independent authority in a sovereign country such as Guyana. Note that the FBI's role abroad is supportive and advisory, if and when they do participate in investigative work abroad. Their involvement typically and primarily includes forensic analysis, intelligence sharing, and coordination with local law enforcement authorities. This is except the foreign government, which would be the government of Guyana in this case, formally grants the FBI broader investigative power. So to sum everything up, the answer to the question of whether the FBI can get involved in Adrianna Younge's case is yes. All they have to do is follow the preset protocols, but it has to start with a request from the Guyana government. Based on all the information we've looked over, the FBI typically does not initiate that request. And again, the FBI may get involved if there is a suspicious death that has direct U.S. interest. For example, it involves a U.S. citizen, security, or there's a criminal link. There are exceptions to that. And as I've noted, there have been times when the FBI intervened in cases involving persons who were not U.S. citizens. Most importantly, the foreign country needs to agree, since the FBI cannot investigate on its own in foreign countries. Turn on YouTube notifications for this channel for more updates. Let us know what you think in the comment section. That's all for now. Thanks for watching. Stay safe.